This year, I wanted to freshen up my course, Brand Design School, and add some new features that really help support my students and encourage them through the journey. So along with some custom GPTs, I also created an app. Now, I do know some HTML and CSS, and yes, I've created some websites in the past, but I'm certainly no app developer. So how did I do it? What I used for this was vibe coding. Now, if you've never heard of vibe coding before, it's basically a way of working with AI where it does the coding for you. You act as the art director, telling it what you want to create, getting it to tweak and fix things and adding new features, and basically working with it until it creates what you want. So it does all the hard work of coding and creating what you want, and you're just acting as that art director, telling it how it should look, what features it needs to have, and fixing things as you go. And it really gives you a lot of options to do a lot of creative things because you can do this for very low cost or even free. Now, there's quite a few tools out there to do this, things like Lovable, Base 44, Canva Code, and the one that I chose for this particular project was Google AI Studio. Now, which one you choose depends on what you're trying to achieve because they all have different capabilities in what they can do. It really depends on the features that you're trying to create and also your budget as well. So the reason that I chose Google AI Studio for this particular one is because it is free to use and also it can integrate different AI features. Because it runs on Google Gemini, you can also add in Google Gemini features into the app. You can also add things like Nano Banana features and VO3 features as well. So it allows you to actually integrate AI features into your app, which is really cool, allowing a lot of really fun possibilities. So before I share with you my app and how it all works, I wanted to share with you the process. So if this is something really new to you, I wanted to share how I actually went about doing. The hope with this video is that this will inspire you, that you will go and create something for your course students or for your clients or for your customers so that you can create amazing experiences for people and go beyond just giving them a product, but giving them some sort of interactive tool to support them as well. So in a moment, I'm going to walk you through the full app, all its functions and what it does, because I hope that really inspires you and gets you thinking about the kind of thing you could create. But first of all, I'm going to go through the process because if you've never done any kind of vibe coding, you might be a little bit unsure about where to start. So first, what you need is your concept. You don't have to have absolutely everything figured out straight away because you can, as you go along, start adding more content, telling it to add more features, telling it to tweak things about the design, all that sort of thing. So don't feel like you need to know exactly what it needs to be and how it should look right from the get-go. You basically just need to start with a really solid concept. You need to think about things like what kind of basic features do you want? What kind of look do you want to it basically? It doesn't have to be the exact look. You can definitely tweak that later. And then also that overall feeling. More than the look, I would really focus on feeling initially with that concept. Like, do you want it to feel calm? Do you want it to feel professional? Do you want it to feel playful? Because that can really influence the initial design that it gives you that you will then tweak and make better. So really think about that feeling and then also think about the functionality. What do you want this to do? Now you can always add extra function later on, but if you can think about the main functions that you want, that's really important. So for this, what I actually did was because I had been working with ChatGPT to create those custom GPTs, it already had a good idea of what my course was about. So I was able to ask it, can you help me write out this initial prompt for this app? But you don't need to do that. You can just write something yourself, but it can be helpful if you want to, start with a really good initial concept. So you may want to get ChatGPT to help you flesh out a really nice prompt and say, this is sort of my idea. Can you help me come up with things maybe I didn't think of that might help with this initial prompt? So you want to think about that overall feeling, the basic functions, and what this app is and the audience. So just sort of give it a really good idea about what it's trying to create, because then you're going to end up with a much better start. So then what you do once it's come up with that initial thing is then start noticing, well, what do we need to fix now? So you may want to say, can we tweak this? Can we fix that? Can we add this extra functionality? You just want to start basically sweeping through and start thinking, what do we need to change here? What do we need to make better? I wouldn't overload it with too many things at once because sometimes there are errors. Sometimes it stuffs things up and something goes wrong, and you want to be able to just make a small change. If it goes well, okay, let's move on to the next thing. If things go wrong, you then want to go back to a previous checkpoint, a previous save, and so you don't lose what you did previously. So don't overload it with too much at once because it can get confused, things can go wrong. So I find it better just to give it maybe one or two things to work on at a time. Now, of course, that can take time because it's got to work through it, and you don't want to just sit there staring at the screen screen. So I would either run it on a separate computer or on a different tab so that you can continue on with some other things in the background while it's doing that. And you're not just sitting there waiting for it to do the next thing all the time. It can be a little bit of a slow process because it doesn't just instantly fix it. It has to go through and actually rewrite that code each time. But what I find nice about this slower process too is it gives you time to think about things. So I might just do a little bit for, an hour or so, then I'll, go off and get on with life and do other things, come back to it and I'll start thinking, hey, maybe we should actually work on this, or maybe we should add this functionality. And so by not rushing the process too much, it can actually help you think about extra ideas about things that you can add and ways you can make it better. Now, the Google AI Studio also has an annotate thing where you click on that little icon and then it's got things like a pen and text where you can actually draw on the app and show it where you want things to change. So sometimes if you're just trying to describe it, it may get confused. So annotating is probably the best thing to do if you're finding it's not quite understanding what you want to change. So I might just, circle a particular icon and say, can we change this one? Or, I might even try and draw next to it what I want the icon to look like, because I found sometimes it makes very bizarre icons. So sometimes you need to help it a little bit along the way with things like that. You can also add in text. You can say, can we change this particular thing and say this and things like that. So you definitely got plenty of ways to try and describe to it how you want to make changes. So then once happy with that final app, what I did then was deploy it to Google Cloud. Now, I don't really understand all the technicals in how that works, but basically that's where it is hosting it. And you can always go back into the studio and add new things and then deploy again, and it will overwrite and update it. So once you've put it public so that you've got a link there to share it with people, you can actually go back, update things, and then redeploy. So you can make updates later on. So if there's things you realize, actually, maybe this feature isn't quite working, let's do this or that, you can do that as well. And you can do a lot of customization too to make it on brand for you. You can upload images to it and say, can you use this image, like use this logo or use this background image, things like that. You can tell it hex codes and say use these particular colors. You can also tell it to use certain fonts. So with fonts, you can either reference Google fonts, different Google fonts, and it can use one of them. Or if you happen to have an Adobe Fonts account, you can also reference your fonts ID and it can actually use your Adobe fonts in there too. And if you're unsure about things like that, ask it too. You can ask it questions. Like when I first wanted to use Adobe fonts, I said, is it possible to use Adobe fonts? What do you need from me to do this? And it said, can you give me this particular code? And I can do that. So if you're unsure about something as you go, just ask it questions. Alright, so let's take a look at how you use the Design School Clubhouse. So what you need to do is open up the link in whatever browser you want to constantly be using it in, because the way that it works is that it saves your data in your browser. So this means you don't need any kind of login or account. It's just saving what you add in your browser. So every time you come back to it, it's going to remember things you've already uploaded, and it's also going to remember certain things about you so that you're not having to constantly re-add things or start from scratch. It's going to keep that data for you. So even if you close it down, even if you close the tab, when you open it, as long as you open it in that same browser, it's going to keep working. Now it's designed so it works well on a computer or on a mobile. So you could decide to use it on your mobile browser if you want to use it on your phone, or you can use it on your desktop. So that's completely up to you. But to get the best experience, I'd pick where you want to be using it and stick with that so that it's going to keep that data for you. So when you come to the page, you'll see this Start Vibe Check-in. So that's where we start off, and it's going to ask you how you're feeling that day. So it's a good way to just get in there in the day, say, how am I feeling creatively today? So thinking about your creativity levels, are you feeling really inspired, or are you feeling a bit stuck or overwhelmed? So it's just a good way to just get things started. When you want to, dive into some creative work, think about, well, how am I feeling creatively today? So let's say you felt a bit curious today. So where you click on it, then what it's going to do is give you a little bit of information here. So it's going to say a new question unfolds, inviting gentle exploration, then a micro creative task. So obviously this is completely optional, but if you want to really tap into your creativity before you get started, get into some work, this can be a fun little exercise for you. So this one, it's given us spend 5 minutes observing a small object in detail and note down 3 new things you notice about it. So if you really want to get into a sort of creative flow before you get going, this can be just fun just to get you started. And it's also got a link here to start creating Canva. So if you want to just jump into Canva and start designing, you can just click on this, take you straight to Canva.
So then we have brands. You'll see down in the bottom here, there's all these icons where you'll find all the links to everything. So you can always go back to home here, or we can go through the pages. So we can then go to brand. So in your brand hub here, this is where you can start adding all your brand stuff. And there's some little hidden fun features in this as well. So first of all, we've got your brand assets. You'll add your logo and your sub logo. So I've gone and got ChatGPT to make me a fake brand so that I can demonstrate how this works. So keep in mind, this is ChatGPT created, so it's kind of not the greatest, but we will just go with it just so I can demonstrate how this actually works. So I'll put in a logo, I'll put in a submark. Then we've got palettes, a color palette. So we've got in here some features to help you if you are getting a little bit stuck with your color palette, if you're having a bit of trouble with it. So what you can do is go into AI palette generator and you put in your brand keywords. So make sure that you've already done the foundations of your brand and worked out what your brand's keywords are. So for this brand, I've just put in a few different words here. Now there's a few ways that you can utilize this depending on where you're feeling stuck. If you just have no idea where to start, if you're really struggling with, I'm not even sure where to start, you can just put in your keywords. Then you can click on generate palette. But if you have maybe 1 or 2 colors you've thought of, but you're just a bit unsure on what other colors to go with it, then this can help you too. So what you could do is actually put in some of your colors. So say that I've already chosen these 2 colors, but I'm feeling a bit unsure what else to add to it. So what I can do is put in those 2 colors. Then I'm going to click generate palette. So I've just started off. So I've said, yeah, those 2 colors I've chosen, but I'm not too sure what else I want with it. Now you see here too, you can also choose if you want 4, 5 or 6 colors. So keep in mind, this is your primary palette where we haven't added the secondary palette yet. So we're just going to press generate palette. So what it's done is now generated a palette for us where it has locked those colors we already chose, added some new colors, and then also added the lighter tones and the darker tones and some possible text colors that you could choose. Now it's also added in accessibility testing, so you can look through and make sure there's enough accessibility going on. So looking at all the green ones here of how easy it is to read text on those colors. So if you end up with a palette where there's a lot of bad ones and you think there's not many options to have good text here, it's not going to be very accessible, that's when you've got to question, is this going to work? So you sort of want to check in each column that there's at least 1 green so that you know that that color is going to be able to have text on it, it's going to be usable. So you can see here this one only has 1, but in that case we're just going to put white on it and it's going to work well, so that is fine. But if you have colors where it has absolutely all reds and maybe just a yellow or something, it might be a color that's not working out too well, so it might not be one you want to use. So you want to have a look at this, just make sure that it's going to work well, and also keep this in mind because it's really important to know the accessibility anyway. So now what you can do is you can say, yes, I like that color, lock it. So you click the lock when you like a color, but maybe we weren't too sure about that color. So we've got 4 colors we like. So what you can do is if you want to try it again, press regenerate. So if you can keep locking colors as you find the colors you like, and you can keep regenerating until you get a palette that you are happy with. So you don't have to use this tool if you're happy to work on your palette yourself. You could even go in and put your whole colors in if you just want it to generate, lighter, darker tones and do the accessibility testing for you. It's completely up to you how you utilize this tool, but it is there to be that little helper for you. So let's say we're happy with all this now. So we've got all our colors. We're happy with the accessibility going on here. That's pretty good. So now what we're going to do once we're happy is press Save Full Palette to Brand Hub. And now it's put it in here for us. So we've got all our main palette, lighter tones, darker tones, all our hex codes are there for us. Now we can move on to Mood Board. So you can add in your keywords again, and this is going to keep them there for you, which is a great reminder. And then Mood Board, we have a Mood Board creator. So what you do is you click on it and you can choose up to 6 images. So if you've already created a mood board, you could just simply upload your mood board. But if you've maybe got some images, you could just upload an image that has the images you do have. Or you can, just add a few images, whatever you want to do, really. Again, it's really up to you how you want to use this, but it's got the option to add up to 6 images. And then it's also got generate with AI. So say you've got maybe a few images for your mood board, but you're a bit stuck. Maybe you've got in mind a particular kind of image and you can't find it. You also have the option here to generate with AI to help build up that mood board. So let's say we have just a few images here, and then we wanted to add in some more. So let's say we wanted light streaming down. And then we're going to click generate image. Now, obviously, the more detail you give it, the more it's going to be exactly what you were looking for. But I'm just trying to give you an example here. So let's just say that was what we wanted. So we have that. Obviously, you can click here, an X if this is not what you want. You don't have to stick with it. But you've just got this option, which is very handy if you are, struggling with trying to find the right image. You can, in here, create images to add. Then we're going to add them to our mood board. So it puts whatever images you add in here. Then our fonts. So you just write the font name. Now, if it's a common font, it will actually use that font in there. If you have more obscure fonts, it may not know what they are though. But it's still just to name them anyway. Now, it also has this font pairing suggestion. So once you put in at least 2 fonts, you can then click on Get Pairing Suggestions. And basically what this is just going to do is just talk about your fonts and how best to use them. So if you've picked out fonts, but you're not sure which one should I use for the headlines, which one should I use for body, it's going to give you that information and help you out a bit. So it's just there just to give you some suggestions to help you along in your journey with your font pairing. So in this case, it said, it's great to use Georgia for the headlines and Helvetica for body. It sort of talks about too what that font feels like. So if you want to double check, is that the right feeling I was trying to create? That's really good to just check in there and make sure, yep, that font does actually work for what my branding is. So it's just a handy little tool there just to give you a bit of, guidance and support there for making sure you've chosen some good fonts and how best to use them. Then we have our brand voice guide where you can put in your voice guide. Then you also have graphic elements and icons you can add in. Brand photography, you can add in some photos. And if you'd like, it also has a section here where you can just describe your photography if you just want to describe what the style is like. And then once you don't have to necessarily fill everything, but once you've filled in a good amount, you can also get feedback. So we can get Gemini to give us a little bit of feedback on our brand. So it's just going to be that sort of like that second person that's looking at a brand saying, well, this is how it looks to me, which can be sometimes helpful, because we get stuck in these things and sometimes it's good to have someone else say, yeah, this is how it looks to me. So in this case, it said we've carefully chosen color palette, approachable fonts, and thoughtful brand voice. Beautifully intoned to create a calm, confident, and truly supportive brand experience. So if we were trying to create something that felt calm, confident, and supportive, then we know we've done our job because it's saying that's what it's getting from it. So obviously that's only a very tiny bit of feedback, but it's just that good little check-in to say, hey, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Does that feel the way that I want it to feel? And then we have here prompts. So this is just if you're feeling stuck with design, you don't know what you should be creating, maybe you're stuck on what kind of things should I post on Instagram today? I need some sort of design prompt to get me thinking. We've got here a design prompt generator. So what you want to do is pick your brand archetype. So I've got a quiz. So if you haven't ever taken it before, just click here and it will take you to the quiz. Then once you know which one you are, so obviously these are very generalized. With Brand Design School, we do go a lot more in depth to create something that's very unique to you. So this is a bit more of a generalized approach to try and sort of find out, well, which one of these does your brand sort of fall into? So let's say we were the Oracle, and it's given us a creative prompt. So today it's saying, share a concise personal anecdote about a complex problem you once faced in your field. So something like this can really help get you thinking. So if you're feeling stuck, you might think, what's a problem I've faced? How could I talk about something that I've overcome, a challenge? So it's a really handy tool if you're just stuck on what could I talk about? What kind of design can I be creating today? This can give you a creative prompt to get you started. And it's got a direct link here to get started in Canva to, send you straight to Canva, get designing. Then we have goals. So as you work through the course, as you start to work through things, you can set goals for yourself. So you could say, okay, this week I really want to make sure that I get my logo submark finished. Then you press set goal. So it's going to keep it here as your current goal. Now also when you go to homepage, it's going to now put your current goal there. So as you check in each day or whenever you want to check in, you'll see straight away your current goal. So it's straight away, it's a reminder, yes, that's what I need to be working on right now. Let's head into the thing. So back on your goal, once you have completed your goal, you click I did it, mark complete, get some fun confetti, and it also adds it here into your completed goals list, which is handy because then you can see, what have you achieved, which can help encourage you along because you're thinking, yes, I managed to do this. I managed to get that done. Because sometimes you can think, am I getting anywhere with this? Seeing that can really encourage you. No, I had all these goals and I completed these things. I'm moving along. I'm getting things done. Now we have the course link here, which is basically all the outcomes, all the things that you want to achieve as you go along. So you can just tick them off as you get them done. And it's also got a link here to the course portal. So I would sort of use this app as, your main thing each day or however often you go to work on things. Go to this app when you go to work on something, start in with your check-in, come in here. So have a look where you're up to, then log into the course, then come back for some prompts and some other things, setting goals, whatever. It's just a really handy tool to help guide you through as you go through the course. So you can tick off things as you work through them. Then we have feedback. So it's reminding you here we do have the Pocket Designer GPT, which is a lot more detailed when it comes to giving feedback because you can really talk to it about what your goals are, what's you're trying to achieve there, and have more of a to and fro conversation with it like you would if you were talking to a creative friend trying to get some feedback and trying to work on a design. This is more if you just want something really quick. So if you're working on a design, you're like, something feels a little bit off here, I just need someone just to give me a quick sort of tip about how could I maybe make this a little bit better. So I could just put in this graphic and it's given me some feedback here. So as you can see, it's just going to give me a quick bit of feedback. It's going to tell me, what I'm doing well, then maybe things that we could do to optimize it and make it a little bit better. So it's saying this could involve reducing the opacity or size of background elements, just making it easier to read, allowing the text to pop a little bit more. So it will just, give you that little bit of feedback if you're like, something about this doesn't feel right. And then, gives you that feedback, maybe I do need to make that text a little bit easier to read. All right. So those sort of designs where you just want that quick bit of feedback, this is handy. But if you do want more in-depth feedback, I would use the GPT for that. Now we have the inspo page, which is inspiration and tips. Now, once you have filled out the brand section, it's going to actually create all these little tips for you. So if you haven't done the brand section yet, it won't actually have all these tips in until you do that because it's trying to make your tips very much for your brand. So it's really customizing it to you. All these things will refresh daily. So the prompts, the inspiration, every time that you go in every 24 hours, every day, it will refresh for fresh things for you. So it's great for just, getting you inspired, giving you ideas, getting you thinking about design. And then we've got up here an idea bank. So if you've thought of an idea, like, I really want to make a beautiful carousel that's collage style and does this and that, you could put your idea in. Idea, and it's put a little cute post-it note. So it will collect all your post-it notes of your ideas, and when you're done with an idea, you can just remove it as well. So that's really fun because you can start to build a little idea bank, which is really cute to have within an app like that. If you put it on your phone, this could be great because if you're on the run and you have an idea, you can just put something in your idea bank there. It could be anything too, like if you're working on your brand and you're like, I just thought of a really good idea for a graphic element or something like that, you can put it here in your idea bank. Then we have wins to help you celebrate as you go through and complete things. So we have some instant wins over here. So as you do different things, so as you add your color palette, you've got one. When you've used the feedback tool for the first time, when you've checked in your vibe at least 3 times, when you've completed a goal, when you've completed the course. So we've got all these little goals here. But you can also celebrate your own wins. So if there's certain things that you really wanted to achieve, you finally got there, you got it done, you can celebrate that. So maybe you created a design and it got some great comments. My latest post went viral, let's say. Add it to wins. Yay, it gives you the confetti and adds it to the wins to celebrate. And it's got the date there, so it's really great because it's, a nice little thing to look back onto. Yeah, this is how I've achieved things. These are the ways that, learning designers help me, achieve things, or it can be personal achievements. It could be, external things like going viral or whatever, but anything that you want to celebrate. It can be big or small, just little things that you want to celebrate, little wins that you've had along the way. So that is the app. That is how you use it. I hope you find it helpful. I think it's a really fun tool, a really great companion to have along the course to help encourage you, help motivate you, and give you those extra little tools to help you.
So I hope this got you inspired and helped you better understand how to do vibe coding and how you might be able to utilize it in your own business, whether it's to create some really fun opt-in, whether it's a support thing for your students, or something that you could give your clients or your customers. So my aim with this was really just to get you inspired, because I really think this could be a really cool thing to see in more courses and more offers where people are giving you some sort of fun app or some sort of helpful companion tool that is going to help you and is going to make the process for you even easier. Now, if you happen to be watching this in the week that it comes out, my course Brand Design School that this app was for is actually open right now. So if you want to check out more details about that, you can find the link in the description below. So happy creating, and I'll see you next time.